new Subterranean album, Individuation, the recording process took a very different turn than what I might have traditionally projected as being the case for how you put an album together. And a lot of that was due to a lot of the COVID restrictions. Dan Nahum has come back in to do drums again, and I'm so rapt that he was able to participate and perform on this album. And this time, instead of coming to Melbourne with all the restrictions and stuff, he was able to secure a venue to record in Melbourne or Canberra, and he enlisted his bandmate Kurt Neist from Futility to record his drum parts. And at the time, I'd sent demos to Dan, and I would write drums on a drum program and whatnot. And in the second album, Dan followed that, not to the T, but used it as a quite a guide. But this time he was like, look, I've got some different ideas on how to approach this stuff, and I can't really sort of record it and show it to you. Will you trust me to sort of just follow my nose and go with it? And I was more than happy to let him jump in and add to the conversation of what was going on with all the guitars and everything that I'd written up until that point. And when the recordings came back, it was just like being like a kid in a candy store, like just surprised at hearing stuff for the first time. And a lot of his approach would be something that like I would never think to do in different parts, but it was all like amazing and really, really special. So I kind of am a bit grateful that the restrictions sort of put an extra spin of creativity with not being able to be there and sort of not dictate, but have more of a say on what was going on with the drums. So stellar performance from Dan, and just a lot of amazing creative ways to boost the songs and to go from different transitions of soft, heavy, and all the way in between. It's really, really, really cool stuff.
So this is the second time I've recorded drums for Subterranean Disposition. Last time it was in Toyland Studios in Melbourne, but this time around we've gone for a local space and a local recording engineer, Kurt Neist, who I've worked with on many occasions. And Terry sent me another album of Subterranean Disposition, so expect the unexpected, I guess, and psychedelic doom metal with death metal and black metal influences the order of the day. I'm feeling a real esoteric influence in this album, some kind of mid-period Catatonia vibes as well, but then there's also some stuff that's completely Terry's own, some wild sap stuff and some stuff that's even sort of a bit Americana-y, I would say, in some of the guitar breaks. But yeah, I've tried to make the drum lines as creative and unpredictable as the music itself, but you also want to serve the song and tell the listener a story. And if you're just kind of going over there and going over there and going over there all the time, then it's not clear what the song is. There's nothing to identify sort of one song as distinct from any other song. So I really wanted to try and stamp an identity on each individual song, and also serve the doom metal lineage of the band. So there are plenty of doom sections in there, plenty of flow stuff, but also at the same time I wanted to stretch a little bit, both in terms of my ideas for how to write a drum line, and also perhaps in terms of what Terry's expecting back from me. Terry has given me a lot of creative freedom this time around. So when we did our Contagiuum and the Landscapes of Failure, the last Subterranean Disposition album, which was probably, I want to say 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, that was something where really Terry gave me quite a tight brief for what he wanted from the drums, whereas this time he said just do your thing, and it's really nice that we've come to a point in our musical relationship and working relationship where even if I'm kind of on board as a session member, he's still willing to just trust me to feel my way through his compositions and exercise my own judgment and creativity in terms of the responses that the drummer has to the music. It's humbling that we've reached this point as I guess musical companions.
So what else was new in this recording is we had an extra player, an extra member come in to record with us. We had Justin Min, who I had met a few years earlier as he'd come in to do some live work for Subterranean in 2018 and 2019, and we become good friends and stayed in contact, and the goal was always to sort of have Justin come in and add to the new material when the time was right. And after the drums and guitars were recorded, Justin was fed those things, and he was able to also record at his home base at the time, and he's just come up with such interesting counterpoints in between the rhythms that Dan laid down and then the melodic and sometimes dissonant guitars that were going on, and just he put himself into the conversation as well. So this is the first time for Subterranean that it's actually been like what you could say is a band. It's you had the three elements there working together, and I'm super grateful that he was down to get involved and put his creative powers into this recording. I think it's made it definitely the best and most dynamic rhythm section out of any of the albums so far.
Terry in 2018, he got me to play live bass on a string of shows which ended with WoFest in 2019. There was some lineup changes towards the end, and he actually got Dan back on drums for WoFest, which is probably my favourite of those shows that we played. So I'd worked with Dan briefly before recording this album. I really enjoyed the shows and the music. Terry and I became good friends. And there was some talk afterwards about working on some new music. And Terry sent me some demos of a couple of the songs that actually ended up on the Individuation. And then the lockdown happened. No one remembers what happened for a couple of years. And in 2022, Terry invited me to write and play bass in Individuation. He sent me new recordings with Dan's new drum takes, and the feel was different to me, so I had to rethink my approach to writing for the album. Dan's new drum takes, there was like a sense of rawness and melancholy in these takes, so I changed things around a bit, and I found a space that supported what Terry and Dan were doing, but where I could still add my own response to the music. I imagined it being really epic, of course, a really epic, huge, heavy sound. I wanted to create as much depth as I could with bass. It's tuned really low, and I just kind of wanted to make a bigger sound as possible. Terry's songwriting genius and Dan's playing on the recording were really visual for me, so I responded to the music as if I was watching a film. I'm really stoked that Terry just allowed me to put my own creative take on the music, and even though at times I don't think he was sure where it was going, he trusted me to do my work on this album, and I'm honoured to be on it.
Much like the last album, Contagiuum, I have added tenor saxophone to this new album, and I guess with such a long time in between albums, almost six and a half years, the progression on that instrument from then till now is I've gotten better at being able to interpret stuff and play stuff, so I think it was just a natural progression to be able to add more to each song in the way of putting more saxophone in there, and that also lended to not only putting it in quiet sections or doom jazz sections, as you might call it. I was also keen to experiment and see what saxophone could add to like heavy distorted guitar parts, and so yeah, on every song we've got different experiments and attempts to just utilize that instrument in different ways, and just try and create something new within these songs. Yeah, so with the process of recording the guitars for this album, much like the drums and the bass, due to travel and capacity restrictions in Australia, the decision had to be made to record at home, and it's something that I've never done for a Subterranean release. I've always gone into Toyland to record, so there's a bit of trepidation there about how I would fare on my own, given that normally I would just record demos that only band members would hear before we would record full tracks for like a complete album. But nevertheless, pushed through, and many moments of learning and whatnot, and got all the distorted and clean guitars and some acoustic guitars done all at home. Vocal-wise for this album, a lot of the tones that were used for both the debut and the sophomore album are still present. A lot of heavy tones, I guess you could say death metal, black metal, spoken word, harsh whispers, all these kind of things are still present. I guess the new thing this time around was a lot more melodic, clean vocals, and also this time there've been vocal guests in the first two albums, in particular female vocals on both the debut and sophomore, and I was just feeling like I really wanted to sort of expand my range as a vocalist. I had done a little bit of clean tone singing, I guess you could say, on Contagiuum, but I really wanted to really push it and have a contrast or extra dynamic within all these new songs. And so I've pushed myself really hard to get out of the mindset that I couldn't do these things, and applied myself to the task. And I'm really proud with the results of a lot of these melodic and clean passages, and some of them are also clean but aggressive as well. So I feel like it's a super mixed bag of vocals, and definitely the most dynamic range of different styles that I've ever put into the same songs or the same album.
Free of I've-bound minds, sick and viral, jeering through jaundiced eyes.